PR's Top Pros Talk, The Great Reflection, featuring Whaewon Choi-Wiles, Director of Corporate Communications for Audi of America. And here's your host, Doug Simon.
We hear a lot about the term the Great Resignation, but you actually call it something different, which I really like, the Great Reflection. What do you mean by that?
Sure. The Great Reflection is, I think it's just another way to think about this moment in time when people are making a huge change. When you look at the course of the last 3 years, it's almost like everything has changed and nothing has changed. And as people were thinking about career decisions and what's next for them, I think the Great Reflection is a way to look inward and say, what do I really need from my work? How can I serve and do something with my time that has more meaning? What changes do I want to make that will have a real impact on my world?
Yeah, and also given the pandemic, there are sort of widely disparate opportunities depending on what type of field you were in. Obviously, communications has seen quite a boost as it became more important. How important is that, given what opportunities are ahead of you versus someone who may not have those opportunities? I think that would make quite the difference.
Absolutely. As I heard so many stories from people who were deciding to make a change, I made my own career change. What I realized is that there's instances where people were making, I like to describe it as people were changing a pair of shoes. They weren't making the real change that they needed. And I think it requires us to ask some really tough questions to ourselves. What do I value most? What am I really good at? How do I want to make a difference? How do I want to make things better instead of just doing more? And those aren't easy questions to answer.
Right.
People who are managers, those of us who work inside systemic corporations, those are hard things to operationalize and uncover. But I think what's really important about this moment in time right now is to say, how do we spend time investing in each other? How do we have one-on-one conversations that give us the opportunity to peel back the layers and investigate, have curiosity about what matters to individuals, and then match those with the opportunities inside business units and connect them to business value.
Yeah, and you have a unique experience, somewhat unique in that you've worked both on the agency side and in-house. How does that inform? Is it easier to do that when you're internal at a company?
Doug, what I think is interesting about this moment in time for me personally is that as I was trying to think about what the next chapter meant for me individually, Audi is doing that as a corporation. Audi is literally rewriting their next chapter as we move into an EV future. And I love the idea that in working with Audi, there was a place with such clear conviction and clarity of focus on what we needed to do next. And so if you think about how Audi is moving forward into the future, one of the things that we say is that the greatest impact that we can have as individuals and as humans working together toward one goal is that by selling and putting more EVs out into the world, that is the greatest impact that we can make on climate change. And for me, the clarity of knowing that we were working together on that purpose, that I think it goes beyond. Sometimes it's really easy to say we're focusing on brand purpose, marketing purpose. It's bigger than that. And I love that inside this corporation, I was able to be part of something like that. What we saw over the course of the last couple of years is comms became more and more important to the everyday operations of the business. We became central to business decisions and communications to workforce, stakeholders, consumers. But I think the other thing that happened is that we got really busy as PR professionals inside
Right.
agencies, and we got lost in that busyness, and that more and more and more, it became, what are we actually doing? What are we improving? We're all seeing that we need to improve aspects of our personal life, our what corporations and governments are doing. But I think we lost it in the busyness. And what I think I've really been able to find inside Audi is that connection of all of the power, potential, voice that I have, and connecting it to what Audi wants to achieve for our planet, for our consumers, for the future of the automotive industry.
So you've had the opportunity to be at a company that has this vision that, you can feel so strongly about. Now, I'm not suggesting others work at cigarette companies, but there might be a continuum in mission value, and most companies will fall in between. So if you're in that in between space, do you have any suggestions for people to sort of find their personal mission within that environment?
I think what can happen in the world that we live in today is we get so laser focused in the what are we doing and how are we doing it, tactics, execution. And I think it all goes back down to conversation. Why are we doing this? Why is this important to me? Why can I take any opportunity and seize it in different ways to grow personally, professionally? Those answers aren't always in front of us. They're not always easy. And it requires having safe spaces where you can talk about those things, the type of people who challenge you and are motivated in helping and supporting you.
This is also a time of year with the holidays and New Year approaching that people historically look within themselves to see if they can find a mission and value. Do you have any suggestions for that?
I think it requires so much intention and a presence of mind to be able to answer that question. It is so easy for us, especially in this period where we're making small talk, we're socializing, we're seeing people we haven't in a while, where we have standard answers for everything. How are things going? Oh, I'm busy. How's work? Oh, it's a lot, right? But this idea of the great reflection, coming back to that, requires having greater presence of knowing what's happening inside you, what's happening in the world around us, being able to connect that with what we want moving forward. So I guess I just encourage folks, instead of saying, how are you? Or going immediately into the default of how's the job, we could ask different questions to arrive at more reflection and intentionality around where we're at any given time, right? What's inspiring you? What's giving you power? Where are you spending your energy and time? What's depleting for you? I think there's other ways to get at where we are in the now, as opposed to just letting the inertia of every day just keep us where we are.
One of the things when you think of reflection, you tend to maybe think of people who are a little older, maybe a little more seasoned, who have that experience. But you also have insights that can help newbies, young people who are entering the field of communications.
First of all, I was really excited to talk to you because I think one of the things that I see inside your organization is a desire to truly teach the craft. Public relations is a craft. It requires discipline, experience, repetition. And so I encourage people to really embrace the idea of learning the craft of what we do, telling the story, getting, again, back to the why behind the story, finding both the problem and the answer. All of those things are skills that we build over time and are so necessary in the way that we're living and working today, where we're virtual and it's hard to really learn by osmosis and being there together. We have to be intentional about how we teach and train people. And so I'm really excited to see that we're finding new ways to do that today.
Do you have any specific tips that maybe younger people can use so they can try and advance themselves and learn in a more effective way?
I think it requires three things. Number one, as you're learning the craft, what requires more at bats, more practice? Number two, identifying what do you want to teach others from everything that you've learned? And number three, what is out in big blue sky that you want to learn still?
Yeah, and that's such a great point because I know for myself, obviously, I've been in the industry for quite some time, my own company for quite some time. When I hire young people, I still want to be able to learn something from them. Do you have any suggestions for how managers in 2023 can make sure they're creating an environment that supports reflection of their teams and employees at their organizations?
Doug, I think the truth of the matter is that managers the last couple of years, they were so tired. Managers lost sight of what it looked like to take care of our people because they were taking care of everything else, right? So as we begin the new year, I think managers can really commit again to giving time, space, energy to investing and taking care of our people. And a lot of times it goes back to how do we ask better questions of our teams to really understand what they need, who they are, where they're at in their lives, right? So we talked about better questions for social events, but there are better questions for managers too. What's giving you energy? What's depleting you? What are some of the ways you want to make a difference? What are you curious about? What's limiting you? These are just new ways to have deeper conversations with our people so that we create the space for them to reflect and do it with us together.
Great discussion. Do you have any final thoughts, or final reflections, I should probably say, that you want to leave our viewers with?
I'm so excited about this next chapter of my journey. It required a lot of reflection to decide what was next for me, and the idea of choosing a career inside Audi where we get to shape the future of automotive is so exciting for me. And I hope that others who are in the midst of their own reflection, choose reflection instead of just resignation. Change is hard regardless of what you decide to do next. And so make the change worth it.
And you also get to drive a really nice car. So thanks so much for sharing your insights with us. Really appreciate it. Great stuff.
Absolutely.